Testing. Okay, with that, seeing as it is 1 o'clock, I could go ahead and call the meeting to order. We're at the June 22nd, or 23rd, excuse me, June 23rd, 2026 Fayette County Board of Elections meeting. Welcome to everyone, and of course we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everyone would please rise and refer to the flag right behind the dais up here and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item of, full item of the agenda is the approval of the agenda itself, and I would accept a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second have been made to approve the agenda as presented. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. That brings us to our public comment. Speakers will be given a 5-minute maximum time limit to speak before the Board of Elections about various topics, issues, and concerns. Speakers must direct comments to the board, and responses are reserved at the direction of the board. So if we have any public comments, please approach the podium up here, state your name, your Fayette County residency, and begin your comments.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tanya Stye. I am a Fayette County resident, and I'm the current DPG County Liaison for Voter Protection, as well as I manage the poll watcher program on the Fayette Democrat side of things. So, I'm very new, but it's been a crash course, and I'm learning. I have a couple of observations. And keeping in mind that today I showed up 24 hours early for a meeting, so I have my own struggles with keeping dates and times straight. So this is not casting aspersions or stones, but just a call to action to see what we can do to improve communication of panels and meetings. I know that the office works hard to keep things as up to date as they can. But I wonder if there's just a more instantaneous way to inform the public of changes to the schedules. I know that some of these panels and stuff, like, they're limited to certain numbers of people. They're not all meetings and panels are open to the public. But that doesn't mean that the public maybe shouldn't be aware of them. Maybe they would take more of an interest in the process, and then we'd have more volunteers and all of that. So, so just a note there. One recent example, which I know that y'all have addressed, but y'all know about the risk limiting audit, mismatch on the times there. My second comment is I wanted to follow up. In May, another public speaker made some comments about ADA access and in the polling, in the viewing area for the ballot monitoring. And I was wondering if anything came of that, if there was any attempts made to make it easier for people who need mobility devices or whatnot to see, because the window is very high up, so you're standing to see it. I think that's it. Just thank you for all that you do, and thank you for your patience with me as I learn this too, and appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Are there any additional public comments? Again, please approach the podium, state your name and your Fayette County residency, and begin your comments.
Good afternoon. My name is Philip Thomas. I am a Fayette County resident. I was a tabulation observer for the ACLU on the May 19th for the primary, and I was a poll watcher credentialed by the Democratic Party for tabulation on June 16th for the runoff. On June 16th, I ran into a major issue. I was denied access that I was entitled to as a credentialed poll watcher / ballot observer under OCGA 21-2-408, also SCB Rule 183-1-13-0.5. Both to the computer room and to the check-in area of the tabulation center / election office. I'd like to emphasize the importance of poll watchers / observers and election transparency, especially in these current times. and that illegally barring observers only raises more questions and concerns about our elections. It's important that the board and all election staff follow the law, but it's even more important that they understand that observers and watchers are there in order to safeguard the integrity of elections and to closely observe all processes that happen. Elections, tabulation of election results, and all processes that constitute such things should not be some closely guarded secret. They should be completely transparent. I'm not necessarily claiming that any staff are doing anything malicious in secret, but I do think it is important that there are eyes that aren't explicitly under the control of the elections office on every single process of the election, as once again, these elections are supposed to be transparent. And if members of the general public aren't allowed to get a very close view of it, which I personally disagree with, the next best thing are credentialed observers from parties or candidates. I know that there might be some that disagree that every process should be closely monitored, and that's quite concerning, as that only raises more questions and suspicions that something nefarious or untoward is going on. And if there are indeed problems that occur in the election or its processes, it's important that extra eyes are on such things. When I was rudely denied access to both the computer room and check-in area, the individual doing so also brought up a request that I made at the previous certification meeting where I suggested that there be TV screens in the public viewing area to allow the general public to view what was happening in the computer room. And this individual, seemingly speaking on behalf of the board, the collective superintendent, bluntly denied this request and disturbingly insinuated that the processes that I sought to observe were for their and their staff's eyes only, and not for the eyes of anyone else. This was very disturbing because these elections do not belong to the elections office or its staff. They belong to the people of the county and are funded by our taxpayer dollars. Transparency should be an obligation, especially when the law requires it, as in my case as a credentialed observer. I made it clear when conversing with this person that the areas available to the public were not sufficient to adequately observe all processes of tabulation and that I was entitled to more access, but was rudely denied as I already stated, with her claiming that my presence in the room observing would constitute interference, which was likely an attempt to scare me and shut down any further discussion. It's very disturbing that it seems that, at least according to the elections office, scrutiny of election processes is considered something that should be avoided. If no personally identifiable information of voters connecting them to which choices they made is involved in the processes sought to be observed, there shouldn't be all these restrictions and secrecy. I would like to remind the board that they ought to ensure that everyone that serves under them is polite and respectful when interacting with members of the public or credentialed observers and allows them to have the access to areas to which they are entitled. And if there is a problem, to make it clear what problem exists in a polite, non-snappy manner and to actually listen to the concerns voiced by the other party. All staff members should be respectful and polite and not rude, snarky, or otherwise unprofessional. I would also like to say to the board that if those that serve under them are not following the law or otherwise being unpleasant, the board, as the collective superintendent, should step in to resolve any issues that in order to ensure that the laws are being followed and that members of the public or partisan observers are being treated in a respectful manner. I know that there are good people present on the board, and it'd be a shame if the actions and behavior of those that the board has charged with running elections ends up tainting the board's overall reputation. Once again, transparent elections are exceptionally important to our county, our state, and our country. It's important that the board take actions to ensure that elections and all processes surrounding elections are transparent and that appropriate access is given to observers. I hope that come November, these issues that I and others have described are adequately resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further public comments? Okay, seeing none, I will go ahead and close the public comment period. This brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is old business itself. The first item of old business is the approval of the May 22nd, 2026 regular meeting minutes. And I believe we have this copy here, the regular meeting first, which is our 5 p.m. meeting from May 22nd. And I would accept a motion.
I make a motion to accept the minutes for May 22nd, 2026.
Second.
Motion is second been made. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. And the next item of old business is the approval of the May 22nd, 2026 special called meeting minutes. That was our review of precinct returns at 3 p.m. on that day, and I would accept a motion.
I make a motion to approve the May 22nd, 2026 special call meeting minutes.
Second.
Motion and second have been made. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. This brings us to our sole item of new business, which is the certification of the June 16th, 2026 general primary runoff election. I would just take my prerogative as chairman to briefly discuss the June 16th runoff. From the May general primary, we learned a lot of lessons and took a lot of our failures in order to improve our operations and to empower staff in the way that we should have in May. And in visiting all the different precincts, I think the board would agree with me in saying that this election was a lot more like what Fayette County is used to and should look like as far as election conduct and elections operations are concerned. There were very, very few lines at the polls, if any. Staff had enough machines, enough support from the office, and enough empowerment all in order to allow our voters to have the best experience possible. We had right about a 20% turnout. I'm sure Director Garrett will get more into that, but right about 20%, which is fairly strong for a runoff like this. As we take those lessons, we are always eternally improving ourselves, improving our relations, improving our own operations. Additionally, at the elections office, as some of you may know, we have just completed a very large renovation project of the old public defender's office. And this is the first full, election, the primary as well as this runoff, that we've had full use of the entirety of the building. So, there are a lot of growing pains in dealing with the new facilities, but in the specific designing of the new facilities, they were designed in a way in order to accommodate the law, state election board rules, as well as the public's inquiry. Now, I'll speak a little bit more on this later, but I would just go ahead and hand it off to Director Garrett to speak on the certification of the June 16th runoff.
Good afternoon. For the June 16th general primary runoff, we saw a total of 18,385 registered ballots. Forget the registered part, but we saw a cast of 18,385 ballots. For election day, we had 9,504 voters. During the advanced voting, we had 8,480 voters. For absentee by mail, we processed 398 ballots that were cast. And for provisional, we had a total of 3 ballots. For this election, that brought us to an exact percentage of a 20% turnout. That concludes my summary for the June 16, 2026 general primary runoff election. Are there any questions for me?
I don't have any.
No, nothing for Director Garrett? No. Yeah, this is a much shorter election, much easier, I'd say, overall election than the May one, with a very long ballot and a number of different races and a lot higher turnout as well. So we've already reviewed our precinct returns at our meeting yesterday, so I would go ahead and be open to a motion to certify the June 16, 2026 general primary runoff election.
I motion to certify the June 16, 2026 general primary runoff election.
Second.
A motion and a second have been made. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor of certification of the June 16th runoff signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. This brings us to our public hearings, of course, as needed, specifically the public hearings of staff challenges to remove registered Fayette County voters from the electors list who are registered in the State of Georgia Secretary of State voter registration system as deceased, mentally incompetent, canceled, or felon, as well as precinct and or polling location changes. Again, these are as needed. I believe that, and Director Garrett, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we have very little authority in approving these. These are done at the state level, and we get these flags, I guess, down here at our level, which let us know who would be removed. So Director Garrett, if you wouldn't mind just giving us the numbers on these
Yes.
cancellations.
For the cancellation report, we have a total for deceased of 77, a total for felon of 7, mentally incompetent, it should be 1. I'm so sorry. It says 7 on your report, but it should only be 1. And then for cancellations overall, including out of state and those that filled out their own cancellation forms, 28, which brings us to a total of 113.
Excuse me, Director Garrett, with the number changes 1, is it still 113?
Yes.
Yes.
It is, oh, okay, I didn't add them, okay, thank you.
But can you, let's look together.
Yeah, 77 plus 7
Yeah.
plus 1,
It
and
is
85
correct.
plus
Okay.
28.
He did the math.
On the
great.
Excel sheet it was, so, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and seeing as we don't have any board action at this time.
Can I
Um,
ask a question?
Sure, absolutely, about this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Regarding the cancellation report, a number of the counties have been, we've been asked if we're receiving a report from the clerk of the Superior Court related to non-citizens who self-identify when they're called for jury duty. And I believe I asked, I don't believe we are. And there have been a number of counties that I'm familiar with who've been reporting that if that report is going to the Secretary of State, which I'm told it's supposed to go to both, that there are non-citizens who are self-reporting, and but it's not coming through from the Secretary of State. So I'm just mentioning it, if we could follow up on that to see if we just don't have any, or if they're not making the report come to us. Just a request, please.
Yes, ma'am, but just for the record, that will be included in the report of cancellations. So when I do the list, I don't list out the NCOAs, moved out of state, duplicate, et cetera, even though I give you a report, so it will be a part of that. But I would definitely look into it. I just
Okay,
wanted to be
'cause I
clear.
didn't hear that it was included anywhere in these numbers.
It will be included in those numbers if that's the case. So it wouldn't have its own line item when I read my report out loud. Cancellations is pretty broad, so it will be included in there. But on your list that you have, you will be able to see if that's the case. The
Okay.
printout list that you have as a board.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, any further discussion or questions for the director? Seeing none, this will bring us past our public hearings and to our director's report. Director Garrett, I would hand it off to you at this time.
Greetings, board. As of June 23rd, 2026, there are 99,359 registered voters in Fayette County, with 92,776 of those being active, the rest inactive. We have a risk limited audit coming up on this Friday. It'll be held at Fayette County Health Department, and it will begin at 9:30 a.m. I want to add in a little note there that if I ask the panel to come, auditing can take all day sometimes, so we don't want the panel to sit there all day if it's unnecessary. They're welcome to come at the starting time, but we typically don't need them until 30 minutes or an hour into. So I just wanted to clear up if your party may have received that information. That's why you see 9:30 as a start time on here and online versus what may have been communicated in the email, which is 10 or 10:30. I can't remember off the top of my head, because we have so many Rolling Stones in the office, which brings me to my next thing. Tomorrow we will be holding the recount for the May 19th, 2026 general primary election for Public Service Commissioner District 3 Republican contest, and that'll take place in the office. That is scheduled to begin at 10 o'clock tomorrow and will continue daily until finished, which we foresee that we won't need anything past the day because we are using the ICCs to do those. So that's not a manual recount. That's running it through our tabulator, every last ballot that was cast on May 19th, and then looking at the results of that contest only. I would like to report that in positive news, we have interns in our office who are working this summer similar to our last intern, who is continuing in our office in as much capacity as he can. But we do have additional interns as well, and they'll be working on various projects as we continue to close this election and open up more room for looking at facilities, poll worker enhancements, especially getting education into the community, something we talked about at our last board meeting, and just seeing how we can improve the office with short projects that we can implement long term and later on. And lastly, I do want to say for the record, our office on election night, there is no secrecy. Everyone in the office is polite, kind, respectful, and also available, even myself, as much as I am able. Election day and election night looks very complex, and I would like to challenge the community, and especially the party representatives on the board, when it comes to your parties, if you could keep people active during the times that we're out of election posture and we're slower, and we have the opportunity to maybe provide educations to your party as needed. I know we did a voter registration class for the Republicans, but that's a better time for us to be able to be available to answer the various questions and the curiosities about our processes, even if it means maybe walking through party affiliates of the process and just seeing how we can better get a communication system and an understanding of our processes without jeopardizing the election, and especially not secrecy, but privacy of the election. Because people tend to want to, let me come back, let me not use those words, but people tend to want to know about elections during election posture when we're just trying to make sure that we follow the various different ever-changing protocols that take place all so closely to election and still stay out of stay in compliance of making sure that we're doing things in decency and order. So I believe I'm very approachable. I just have to prioritize the things that need to be of concern in that moment. And our as Chair Lizzie said earlier, we are still moving and renovating our things, but even after our past election, we did go and we test our public observation room to make sure that you could hear and see everything, and you could. As far as ADA, I did not consider that during the last meeting, so that's something that I would circle back with, and I have absolutely no problem with that. And for communication to the parties, while it is definitely a courtesy to include others, ultimately something that I try to do is only communicate with the party chair first and let them disseminate or approve first who it is that they want to represent, because unfortunately in every organization personnel change. So I have to make sure to keep us in compliance and out of legality, is that the word, that I only go through certain channels first, and then once they allow me to venture out and I know that that person is still current, then I still include them. So the communication part, I will work on my end too, but maybe the chairs appointing continuous recommendations until the chairs change. I don't know if you all have an election when you change your positions of who's your chair, vice chair, etc. But just working on cleaning up those communication processes on my end and on the party's end too. And I think that'll help everyone involved, because the people so far that I've been in contact with have been great and they want to help. And I definitely appreciate that they've been open. And like Tanya, for example, she has been very verbal, open. Let me know if you need me, and she's been there. I just know as a elections director, as the administrator of this office, I got to make sure that I stay in compliance and I'm never putting myself in a position to be, I guess the word could be accused, or just moving out of order. So just wanted to put all of that on the record. Are there any questions for me for my director's report information?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Are any further concerns too that you may have about anything that I've just said? Okay. Well, that concludes my director's report.
Anything further? Okay, seeing no further discussion, I can bring us on to our attorney's report. Thank you, Director Garrett. Do we have anything, Patrick? Okay, wonderful. Great to hear. Thank you, sir. This brings us, of course, to our board member reports. I feel very fortunate that I get to look over to my left and recognize our new board member, Beverly Daniel, to offer, I believe, her first board member reports that she's given. She's been around for a few of these with her long-running service to Fayette County and Fayette County's election, and as I said it yesterday, but Beverly Daniel is a consummate public servant. She's somebody who knows elections in and out, and she knows what it means to give back to the community, and the same is true of everyone in her entire family. And so I have had the great pleasure and privilege to be able to learn from her, when she was interim director and involved in the office. And I'm just overjoyed to have her on the board and to see what more she can contribute to our Fayette County community. So please, board member Beverly Daniel.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the kind words, and I look forward to working with both of you and working with the director to make sure that we have a smooth running election. And I'm willing to learn, and I still have a lot to learn. So I'll be looking forward towards you guys to lead me in the right direction.
Thank you, Member Daniel. Report from Vice Chair Alexander.
Sure, and welcome, Beverly. I'm anxious to learn. You're the one that's been on the other side, the one that's in the actual work end, and I think there's a lot we can learn from each other because we are looking at two sides of the fence and all working toward the same goal. Regarding the runoff election, I still maintain that we have machine issues, and I'll be making a report to Brianna and to the rest of the board. I don't think that it's due to any fault of our elections office. I just believe that the machines have been used, and I believe that we're seeing a number of points where they're just breaking down. And to me, that is unacceptable, because anytime you have wait periods or problems with the machines, I feel it makes our voters question our election process. And so that's what I'm always looking for when I go out and visit the precincts, as well as just good PR between the board and those people running our precincts. So I'm just making that as a note. I've said it several times. I continue to believe that we've got to work on that. So other than that, I want to thank everybody. The primary and the runoff has been an extremely exhausting time for everybody, especially the elections office, because, you know, we go out on the day of and then help bring people in. But we really appreciate all the work of the poll workers and the elections office. It's a long time to be that involved and intense in elections, and I think they did a great job. So that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Alexander. I'll just give a brief report, just echoing some of the comments and statements that we've heard. You know, this was an election that was a lot more akin to what Fayette County should look like, and we do have real technical issues that we have to get on top of. And thank God, honestly, that we have the staff that we do, who can mitigate any issues that come up and make sure that 99.999% of the time it never affects a voter's experience. And, you know, the last thing that we ever want to do is discourage voters in any way, discourage staff in any way, provide incomplete answers or technology or guidance in any way, because giving an incomplete or incorrect answer like that is very difficult for us as election officials, because that partial answer can run very, very far and very fast. I think there's the old saying, you know, it takes a lot shorter amount of time to tell a lie than to, you know, correct the lie or misinformation, because the great thing is that the tough thing, is that intentions never govern outcomes. And that's a really difficult thing for everyone to deal with as individuals, but especially us as election officials. And so that vigilance towards, you know, keeping disinformation, misinformation, partial information at bay is very difficult. And maintaining that communication like we've been speaking about is also something that we strive for, but it's difficult. And taking the feedback that we hear is always something that we want to incorporate into our operations, and that is what gives us the opportunity to strive for the positive experiences for voters, for staff, for everyone involved in all ways. So those responsibilities that are incumbent on us as election officials are also actually incumbent on us as Americans. They're incumbent on us as voters. They're incumbent on us as poll workers or as poll watchers. You know, the statute gives us all requirements and gives us all the contours of what we can and cannot do. It tells us how we can conduct ourselves as election officials, tells the voters how they can conduct themselves, what they need to do in order to be eligible to vote and then cast their vote, how the poll workers need to conduct themselves. And, you know, it's always a tense environment in the year 2026 and the years that we've had in the past. So everybody is on edge, everybody's walking on eggshells, and so everybody is very, very in tune to not breaking rules, not breaking laws, because, you know, we're at such a high fever pitch right now. And the tough thing about those statutes and the modern day of elections is that we can't say yes to everything. Because if we do, we can paint ourselves into a corner, potentially break rules and break laws, when the only thing that we originally want in the first place is to provide that good experience. And so it's difficult for us when we want to make things happen and be able to provide as directly positive an experience. But again, the number one job that we have as election officials is to follow the law. And, you know, even in statute, there are those requirements that we have, that the public has, and there are certain privileges that certain folks are afforded after they take their oaths, or as poll workers or poll watchers. But again, we all have those responsibilities incumbent on us, and it's difficult roles to operate in, especially on election night when, like Director Garrett said, it's a complex picture to get your arms around, to say the least. And there's a million things going on. There's a million different things Director Garrett is having to handle at the time. So I would just, more than anything, ask the public to remain engaged, like Director Garrett said. Stay with us inside and outside of election posture when we're in election season. And just never stop asking questions, never stop being engaged, and never stop reaching out to us in order to learn either from us at the elections office or go into the Secretary of State, where they've got manuals and guidance on the way that things work or the way that elections are conducted, or directly to the vendors themselves, who may provide more information there. There is a plethora of resources, but this whole world of elections is an overwhelming beast. And it's really one of the most difficult things that government has to do. So more than anything, I would thank you for your engagement, thank you for your interest, and please, please keep it here, because we need that criticism, that feedback is what keeps us sharp, keeps us getting better at our job. So thank you for coming out to everyone. Thank you for your comments, and I hope that you will continue to do so. So with that, I don't have anything else. I don't believe we have any items for executive session, so at this point, I could accept a motion to adjourn.
Okay, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
No second is required, but one is always welcome. One is always welcome. Any further discussion as to adjournment? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. We are adjourned. Thank you.